It started with a tray of soup, then a flicker of hesitation, then a pair of trembling hands reaching out, not from weakness, but from years of service that had weathered every bone, every tendon, into something brittle but unyielding. He sat in the far booth, alone, boots caked in dust, a coat too thin for winter. His military cap was tucked beneath a trembling elbow. Steam rose from the bowl before him, curling into the air like the ghost of something forgotten. And she, Marie Jennings, stood just beside him, holding a glass of water and a fresh roll. She shouldn't have been there, not after clocking out, not after her manager had told her to let the old man figure it out himself. But she stayed, laid the roll gently beside his bowl, refilled his glass, smiled like it was a quiet promise. From the security camera above, it was all visible. Every step she took that day. From the pantry where she secretly filled the bowl with extra stew, to the way she tucked a napkin gently into his lap with her own hands. But what the camera didn't catch was what came next. A closed door, a cold voice. "You're done here, Marie. We don't need staff who break protocol for charity cases." 12 minutes later, she was standing in the alley behind the restaurant, apron in one hand, tears freezing on her cheeks. What no one saw, what no one expected, was that the man she helped wasn't just a charity case. And by morning, the Pentagon would know her name. Marie Jennings was not built for headlines. She lived quietly, worked hard, and believed kindness didn't need an audience. 32 years old, night shift waitress at Tom's Griddle, a 24/7 diner just off Highway 11, where truckers, veterans, and forgotten people came for cheap coffee and warm silence. Marie had no military background, no medals, no family in uniform, but she had something else. An ache to matter, to see the invisible, to honor what the world walked past. Her apartment was small, a second-hand lamp, unpaid electric bills stacked in a drawer. Her dreams, art school, maybe a bakery one day, had quietly given way to double shifts and half-full gas tanks. And yet, she never complained. Customers loved her. Regulars called her Sunshine. Not because she was loud, but because she always saw them, even when others didn't. Especially when others did. She didn't want attention. All Marie wanted on that cold Tuesday night was to make sure that the man in the booth ate something warm. He'd walked in just past midnight. Coat thin, face gaunt, skin weathered from too many seasons spent outside. But it was the patch on his sleeve that stopped her. A faded 101st Airborne insignia. And the way he whispered, "Ma'am," as he asked, almost embarrassed, "How much for just a cup of water?" He didn't beg. He didn't complain. He didn't look her in the eye. Marie's goal that night wasn't rebellion or virtue. It was human. Feed him. Sit near him. Let him feel seen. Her manager, Dave, was a different breed. Late 40s, crew cut, clipboard always under one arm like it gave him authority. He called the veterans who lingered at the counter table cloggers. Said they scared off tourists. "Marie, don't serve him unless he orders. It's company policy." "But he served us," Dave scoffed. "That and $5 gets you a coffee. Policy's clear." So she waited till he stepped out back for a smoke, then filled a bowl with extra stew, added fresh bread, and walked it to the table like it was nothing. But Dave had eyes in every corner. And when the shift ended, so did her job. Marie didn't cry in front of him. The veteran had already left by then, leaving behind a folded napkin with 5 neatly stacked quarters and a note written in shaky hand. For kindness. Thank you. She walked home that night in silence. Her phone battery dead. Her rent due in 4 days. She thought of texting someone, anyone, but there was no one left to text. By dawn, she was already searching for new job listings. What she didn't know, what no one knew, was that someone else had been watching. Not from the manager's office, not from the cameras, but from across the street. Colonel Thomas Rourke had been retired 5 years, but some habits never left. He sat across the street in his old pickup, sipping burnt coffee from a styrofoam cup, watching the diner like he always did when he couldn't sleep. He saw the exchange, the kindness, the confrontation, the firing. And he recognized the man Marie had helped. Staff Sergeant Raymond Hill, one of his own, discharged after injuries in Fallujah, suffered from chronic PTSD and homelessness, hadn't been seen in weeks. Marie hadn't just served stew. She'd intervened in a life falling apart. And that night, Rourke made a call. Not to the local paper, not to a TV station. He called someone who still picked up when he said the word, urgent. By 8 a.m., Marie's phone rang. An unknown number. Miss Jennings, this is Captain Linda Monroe, Office of Veteran Affairs. You have a moment? Marie blinked. Sure. The next 48 hours moved like a blur. First came the follow-up call from a DC area code. Then an invitation to a private Zoom call with someone from the Joint Chiefs Liaison Office. They had seen the security footage. They had read her employment record. They had reviewed her community history. And they were appalled. This is unacceptable, said one voice. What you did, Miss Jennings, should have been applauded, not punished. She blinked into the screen. I just gave him soup. No, the woman corrected her. You gave him his dignity back, but not everyone celebrated. The restaurant issued a statement. Violation of internal policies. No political motivations involved. Online forums lit up. Trolls mocked her as an attention seeker. She received hate mail. Old friends unfollowed her. Even her landlord warned her not to bring controversy to the building. One night her car windshield was smashed. A note taped to the side read, "Serve bums, get what you deserve." She curled up in her bed that night and sobbed. Maybe kindness wasn't enough. Maybe she had made things worse. Then, 3 days later, something impossible happened. A letter arrived. Heavy parchment. Pentagon seal. Inside, an official invitation. Miss Marie Jennings is hereby invited to receive the Civilian Honor Commendation for Service to Veterans at the Hall of Heroes, Washington, D.C. Her knees buckled. Flight booked. Hotel reserved. All expenses covered. At the ceremony, she stood under chandeliers the size of rooms. A full honor guard stood behind her. Colonel Rourke stepped to the microphone. She didn't wear a uniform. She never carried a weapon. But she upheld the code every one of us swore to live by. Leave no one behind. Marie stood, blinking back tears. I didn't think anyone noticed, she said softly. Behind her, a door opened, and Raymond Hill entered. Clean haircut, shaved, standing tall in donated slacks and a pressed shirt. He walked straight to her, held out his hand. "A many back for you," he said, "because you showed me I was worth coming back for." Applause thundered. Marie wept, not because of medals, but because someone had seen the moment that cost her everything and turned it into something no one could ever take away. The diner quietly took down its statement. Dave resigned 2 weeks later after corporate pressure. Marie never returned. She didn't need to. Veteran groups across the country reached out. One offered her a position as director of community outreach. Another sent letters from 147 veterans she'd never met, all saying the same thing. "You reminded us we're not invisible." Marie didn't chase fame, but fame found her anyway. 1 year later, a small plaque was installed near the booth where Raymond had once sat, alone. It read, "Kindness is the most powerful uniform," in honor of Marie Jennings, who saw what others refused to. Marie visits once a month, not to be thanked, but to leave a roll of fresh bread beside a steaming bowl of stew, and across the booth, sometimes Raymond joins her. Not as a shadow of war, but as a man returned. If you believe dignity has no expiration date, type honor in the comments. Hit like to support our veterans, and subscribe for more stories where quiet courage makes the loudest difference.